So this is where I want to talk about democratizing AI. Freeing up AI not to be a central control, but to enable the end user to seriously think about, can they build AI in a moment of need? Now, about 2 years ago, Microsoft released this particular graphic, and I thought it was interesting, right? AI wanted and is making a conscious effort, right, to democratize AI and help society to solve all the possible challenges. And the only way to do that is not to depend on a limited group of talents, but to make tools available to the general users who can use those tools to build AI solutions, right? And of course, this was the vision that they have created, and we're probably in the process of slowly moving towards that. Let's see how viable this is. The whole aspect of democratization, right? Let's not talk about politics, right? But the whole prospect of democratization has actually penetrated a number of sectors, and more sectors are coming into this discussion. First of all was the democratization of knowledge. But knowledge don't come from a central guru. But we started with schools, we started with e-learning and open source and knowledge communities. So knowledge are starting to kind of spread out, and everybody can be a master of knowledge. Then the democratization of creation, right? Crowdsourcing is one of the most powerful example of democratizing creation, right? You don't have to depend on a artist or a creative professional who sits with you and offers you a solution. Crowdsource that answer. Rapid prototype your possibility, right? So that's another example of democratization. Democratization of funding. Yeah, love that, right? Don't have to go to the bank. Peer-to-peer lending, crowdfunding, definitely possible. Democratization of commerce, right? So you've got the whole space of e-commerce and disruption of the supply chain, right? So the whole business of democratization, right, is definitely eating into the different spaces. So can we talk about the democratization of AI? But what does it mean to democratize a particular technology or domain, right? So this is a nice graph that I love to share, right? So when we talk about central management, right, you have the experts, everything's controlled, right? And you limit how much you can produce. But when you want to expand out and have more activities take place, right, then the cost per the expertise required and the cost of development goes down greatly. So if you look at the inverse graph that's being shown here, right, when you are highly central, right, you have discipline, you have got experts in one corner, and at the extreme end, everything is automated and ambient. Users take control of what they want to build, right? And we are seeing the citizen development taking place, right? So from coding to low code to no code, right? The fact that you can build an application with no code, right? The Microsoft Excel or the spreadsheet technology platform is one good example of low code application. And can we do the same with AI? So if this graph is generic enough to apply across all technologies, right, the democratization of all technologies, then we should be able to see the democratization of AI. So what are the three things that we want to see AI made more useful, right? First of all, we want AI to be your AI, right? You want AI to suit your needs and be customized to your needs. Secondly, you want speed. You want to make sure that at the end of the day, you don't have to follow this complex and sophisticated life cycle that brings you down this path to build the solution. You want to do it at a pace which fits into your business needs. And thirdly, you want AI to be embedded. You don't want this complex solution with a set of user requirement specifications, right, that are so rigid that you can't have any flexibility. You want it to be there to support you, embedded into your workflow, and it's everywhere. Small little pockets of it everywhere, right? And AI democratization, if it were to take place, is really the spread of AI development to a wider user base, just like the democratization of IT that took place 2 decades ago. The use of office automation tools that can be made possible, where you do not need to depend on experts and gurus. You as a user, a power user, is able to do this, right? Now, of course, there are certain expectations that you need to deal with. There's certain constraints you need to manage, right? And there are still projects that need the full-blown central control life cycle, right? But there are pockets of AI, particularly in the smaller scale, right, that can be built by the end user, the business user. The question is, how do you build AI with everyone and for everyone, right? And that is the question that we want to talk about. And more importantly, I draw back the discussion to the theme or the topic of this workshop: enabling AI in the moment of need. At the moment of your need, you cannot afford to wait 9 months, 18 months, 2 years for AI to be built and planted into your system, into your workflow, right? You need to have AI enabled in the moment of need, as you need it, the right time, the right place, and the right size, probably. So hence, I believe the emergence of the AI power users. And I'm very happy when I did a poll with all of you, right? Nobody is unsure. Nobody is thinking that it may or may not be, right? Like the spreadsheet, I believe the power user will step up and will be able to produce a degree of intelligence that's able to support the business need. But this whole power user concept has a little trap, right? We need to be careful not to over cater to the power user and then they become a runaway IT team, right? On the other hand, we do not want to curtail them, or nor do we want to neglect them, because then the progress within the business environment is limited. So it's a really fine thin rope that we need to tread and to balance between giving too much away to the power user and not supporting the power users, right? So what is possible, and more importantly, what are the considerations that organizations must look at? And if you are a business manager, right, what do you want to think about in terms of making this possibly happen? This was a report produced by the European Commission, I believe, right? And they talk about the 7 dimensions regulating the use of AI to protect workers. Now, protection of workers, right? But I would probably rephrase it to 7 dimensions of regulation that, augments worker and technology together. Because if I look at the 7 dimensions that's listed here, right, clearly it is not really a question of protection, but helping the user be aware, right? Be aware of the power of AI and the considerations to manage AI, and more importantly, to understand the implications of AI. So if we run through those lists, right, safeguarding privacy and data protection, hey, that's a no-brainer, right? AI uses a lot of data. So the power user must understand the implication. The power user must know that it is, if they were to be given the power to build AI solutions, they need to know about data privacy, they need to know about protection, they need to safeguard this information. Addressing surveillance, right? Monitoring and tracking the data can be used in different ways. right? And it's important that all this data as it's being used gets properly anonymized or probably adopted and used appropriately and serve a right purpose. And more importantly, to manage the biasness of the data as we generate outcome. Um, then the algorithm must be made transparent, right? We need to know clearly why or what are the rules that are being put into this AI system. We need to know the background to some of the rules so that it becomes transparent as AI generates predictive analysis. We know why, and we can explain the outcome of what the system is producing. We do not want to come to a point whereby we point a finger to the AI system and say, I don't know why that's the outcome, but that's what the AI said. Then the power users is not really doing his or her part. Right? We also need to ensure that at the end of the day, it is not just the system explaining, the developer, the power user who's using the application also have to partake and needs to exercise that right to explain the decision made by the algorithm, right? And if I look at the bottom three pieces, it goes right down to even the welfare of the power users, right? So preserving the security and safety, that is to do with in the event where AI is not just a software, but also has got machinery involved. Boosting worker autonomy, right? And finally, enabling workers who are literate, who can understand the technology. So those 7 guidelines actually are very useful guidelines. And if we were to build power users of AI, then these power users must understand that they carry the set of responsibilities as well. In terms of democratizing AI, I like to use this chart again. And for some of you who have listened to me speak, I've used this chart a few times now, right? What we want to do is to make sure that when we apply AI, it is applied into a space where the technology is helping us with what we call the invisible complexity. Right? If it is within what we can manage and it's a function of automating and speeding up the process, that's well and good. But we want to leverage AI to look into an area that the humans cannot deal with, or it's too complex for the human. If not, it's just another, like what I showed earlier, right? Another select algorithm, right? So keep that in mind. AI needs to be able to specifically look at a particular area the human competency is lacking. We also need to look at the whole ethics and security space, right? The factors for the use of AI at the workplace needs to consider certain regulatory framework, and hence to democratize AI, right? There has to be a central body, a management team that creates a framework to allow that to happen. So we all remember that the days where spreadsheets start to get populated and everybody's starting to use spreadsheet. There are certain rules around when and how you can use a spreadsheet, and certain rules that cannot be done. Right? So we need to do the same, and probably we need to also enforce a higher degree of framework, because right, the uncontrolled digitalization with AI can create trouble or throw the whole work environment into a imbalance, right? So going back to the previous slide, there is a certain set of responsibility we need to do, right? And what's important is the trust factor needs to be built, and the trust relies on one, credibility. So power users need to be credible, right? And want to offer that because we know they are able to do the right thing. It needs to be reliable. Do not inject in unnecessary bias, whether at the design stage or in the outcome stage. And there's intimacy. Everybody needs to feel safe that's the case, right? So at the end of the day, to build a mature, self-oriented team that's able to do that is important. And if I look at trustworthy AI, right, there are 3 buckets that we want to deal with, right? We talk a lot about data right in the center, right? Data protection, human individual data control, transparency, accountability. We talk a lot about that. But having said that, there are actually two other buckets that we need to seriously think about. On the left-hand side is the respect for human autonomy, right? There is a whole ethics around when we generate the algorithm or we start to put AI using certain algorithms. It must have certain respects for the human, fairness, and most importantly, it does not create harm, right? And on the right side, we talk about responsibility and liabilities. There has been certain code of ethics, code of practice, and regulations that has been defined. So that's also important in order to ensure that when we democratize AI, it is trustworthy AI that we're talking about. I missed one slide. Let me go back. So, no, I'm just going to skip this. So, having said all that, and we've got all the framework in place, is it possible now to build the AI as a service? No code, shorter time to develop, and lower investment, right? What do we know? Okay, let's look at this. Some of us may remember Gary Kasparov, right? Gary Kasparov was at one point in time, right, in the 70s, right, the world chess champion, right, the world chess champion, and Gary was the first world chess champion to lose to a machine. So this was one of the first story besides Go, right? A chess player, a chess expert, lost to machine, right? And after losing the machine, he's now gone into a lot of writing. But one of his writings suggests the following: we need better humans, not less technology. Well, when I look at this statement that he made, I was kind of deeply thinking how true this is, right? Technology can always get better, and we definitely want better technology. We do not want to have less technology or weaker technology, but we need better humans at the same time. We need humans to upskill. We need humans to learn more. We need humans to change their thinking, right? To be in line with technology so that we can continue to understand, take advantage, and leverage on the technology to make us better, right? So this is key, right? We need better humans, and this is probably a time where we need to transition from where we used to be to humans who are now able to co-work with AI and upskill ourselves to a level where we are able to leverage technology. There's a lot of hype out there, right? It is important that this hype, we know it's difficult to contain, but it's really up to the IT person, a technology person within the organization, call him the CI, call him the IT director, whatever we want to call him, right? He has to be fully aware. In fact, he should be the first in line to move from AI unaware to AI aware. And he's the one who needs to ensure the management team, particularly the CIO, right, to understand how and where AI can play and make an impact rather than buy the technology because everyone else is buying. So if a IT lead within an organization is unable to explain what is AI or thinks that AI equals to machine learning, then I say to all you managers out there, don't trust him because he doesn't know what he's talking about. Find another person who can tell you more about AI before you engage on the AI solution. So going back to this chart that I showed you earlier, right? The AI Readiness Index, right? Moving from AI unaware to AI aware, to readiness, AI ready and competent, right? Where do you think the power users of AI should sit? And in my view, this is a great space. This is a space that we should seriously consider for us to build the community of power users of AI, right? And I think, right, and I emphasize this again, right, not every organization needs to reach the AI competent level, right? And they need to look at how they can apply AI in their respective requirement, right? And in order to do that, there are different aspects of how we can explore the readiness of AI. And if you look at this chart, again, this is a refresh from webinar number 2, right? There are different components of AI readiness that we need to deal with, right? So one of the first step is we need to identify and understand where you are, right? In terms of AI awareness or readiness, right? It is okay, it is perfectly fine to acknowledge that you're AI unaware, and hence webinars and workshops like this will give you that understanding to shift the needle closer to AI aware. And when you get there, then you can determine whether does your organization need to be competent in AI, or can you just have power users of AI and through the powers of AI and build the AI solution that you need, right? Um, and this is the same chart, but what I want to draw here is this arrow, right? This arrow that says that actually the power users of AI will sit between AI unaware and AI ready. Between AI unaware and AI ready, right? Towards the tail end of AI unaware, you know something about AI. Maybe that's why you need to think whether you want to be power user of AI, to build AI at the moment of need. And even if you're AI ready, you can still apply and become power AI, power users of AI at the moment of need, using tools and technology without going through the long stretch of building a sophisticated AI solution. So what do we need to know? Well, I think this chart is probably a no-brainer, right? For you to understand what AI can do for a business, these are probably 6 questions you want to ask, right? To be clear about the scope, to know that you have data, clean data in particular to support you. You have a model and an algorithm that you can pick up and apply, right? You have the capability to work together with humans to evaluate and infrastructure, as well as people within the organization to deploy the solution and in the long run maintain, because you need to have the humans to supply feedback to the system, to improve on the system, to train the AI solution. How does it work? So simply put, this diagram gives you a rough idea, right, about the data sets, the models you want to create, and how you get feedback, and it loops back into improving the model, right? So you probably see diagrams like this time and time again, and of course in the progress of deploying the solution, you're going to have new data that can be fed into the model and improve on it. So that's what simply put in AI can do for you, in addition to a lot of things that we talk about. And remember, you are training the AI solution. You're not just building the solution and it ends in itself after the 9 months development, right? It will go through this iterative loop, and you continue to get the system to get better. And besides the system getting better, the humans, the users, will also need to get better. But that's the only way you can shift the needle for the performance of the organization, right? I'm going to list a number of thoughts on what are the possible applications that power users or AI can do, right? And these are some ideas, right? In terms of fraud detection, email automation, recognition of digits, and so on and so forth. So and you can think of many more, right? You can think of many more. Now I've come to a point whereby I'm going to share with you 2 possible platforms that can be used to apply AI in the moment of needs, right? I'm going to share a couple of slides to refresh some of the things that we've talked about in webinar number 3. And then I'm going to run a few videos, right? My colleague Darren is currently on standby and will run some videos on that. So I'm going to talk about 2 things. One is the Center of AI Innovation, which APARA has signed a MOU with, right? And let's go back and refresh yourself what that option provides to you. And then there's the platform that I want to introduce to you today called Orange. Yeah, orange is a fruit. well, their tagline is fruity and fun, right? It's a platform that's available, open source, and you can download this app, this platform, and you can start building an AI application with it. Correct. So let's talk a bit about that. So first, CAI, the MOU that APARA signed with CAI, and it gives you a certificate of applied AI. So what it does is it helps you to identify your strategic alignment. So again, understanding your need, right? Understanding where you want to build your story, right? Taking your data, sorting it out, arranging it in the right classification, and then be able to visually present it out, right? So that's what the first thing we need to do is CAI, right? Secondly, it is a tool that can help you go through a number of process, right? From weak to strong AI in its respective space, right? To be able to prescribe and help you monitor the decisions, right? So in that sense, it becomes a co-worker that works closely with you. Thirdly, there's definitely areas in the different domains that has been proven to support productivity in AI. And once you increase productivity, right, in the workflow, clearly the ability to contribute to the revenue per head count will increase as well. And that means good for the business. And hence, it's not a function of needing less workforce, but it's probably a function of being able to get better market share in order to support your environment. And fourthly, all right, the ability for you to look at visual data to evaluate. Okay, so this will presented on the third webinar, 2nd September, and I guess those of you who attended the webinar got a good glimpse of what it is possible. So because APARA has a MOU with CAI, and we're able to offer this certificate for completion on this program itself. It's a 3 months program that allows a non-AI expert, non-IT person, but who knows what he wants, who knows the domain that you want to focus on, who knows exactly what you want to build, right? To go through this process, and in 3 months, with the support and help from the platform, as well as global faculty advisors, right, robo advisors, who can then assist you to build your prototype and get ready for piloting, right? So for those of you who are interested in this particular program, you may write to the secretariat at apara.asia. There's a phone number you can call, but I'd rather you write an email to us so we can have some capture of what you're looking for. You may want to refer to the code APA669 to indicate that you are coming through this particular program, right? The current batch is already full. The next batch will only start in January, right? So you have some time to deliberate and think about this and decide whether you want to participate. Of course, we will not have any classes towards the second half of November and December itself being a holiday month, right? So the current batches are full. The next batch is in January. From what I understand, we already have close to 120 registrations across the region. And we may need to run parallel classes. If not, we will probably do some alternative means. We try to keep the class size small to between 30 to 40. Maximum should not cross 50. And it's going to be a lot of online and remote sessions to help build your prototype, and the platform is available to you. Okay, so that's one that APARA has endorsed and supported. Now, Orange, right? Fruitful and fun, right? So this is a tool that that's available and you can download. You can just Google Orange Data Mining Platform and you can download this. So I'm going to run 3 videos now, right? One is a short introduction to this product. 2 is how you can build a data workflow with this product. And thirdly is how you can actually massage data and translate it from image to textual information, or rather numeric information, which is digital, and then you can do a certain analysis with it. Most of these videos are available on YouTube. What would be useful is just to download the app, and it can point you to a lot of information that we're looking for.
Hello and welcome to Orange Tutorials. My name is Ida and I'll be your guide in the world of data science. Let's begin. You have probably already downloaded and installed Orange. If not, you will find the detailed installation guide in the link below. When you open Orange, the first thing you will see is a welcome screen. From here, you can start a new data analysis workflow, open a recent one, or explore tutorials. Okay, let's exit the welcome screen. Orange starts with a blank canvas. This is where all the magic will take place. But every magic needs some secret ingredients. Our ingredients are called widgets. Widgets are computational units of Orange. They read the data, process it, visualize it, do clustering, build predictive models, and otherwise help you to explore the data. You will find them on the left-hand side of the screen. Most data analysis workflows begin with a file widget, with which we load our data. Click on the file widget, and it will appear in the canvas. Open it with a double click. Go to Browse Documentation Sets and load one of the existing data files that come with Orange. You can naturally load your own data, but for the sake of simplicity, let's go with a famous iris dataset. Now we would like to see what we've just loaded. Click on the data table, and the widget will appear in Canvas. Widgets communicate with one another. They have an input channel, an output channel, or both. To feed the data from the file widget to the data table, drag a line from the right output side of the file widget to the left input side of the data table widget. Now open the data table. Wow, that's a lot of numbers in columns and rows. Let's instead plot the data. We will use scatterplot and connect it with the file widget. Much better. And with this, you just set up your first workflow. Congratulations!
Okay, while we wait for the second video to be run, you immediately realize the UI, the user interface. Very simple, right? You just drag and drop, right? The idea is simply to figure out which particular tool you want to use, pull it into your Scratchpad, and then you combine them together. And the rules behind automatically creates the source code for you to generate what you want to do. Now, of course, that was just a 2-minute quick introduction to the use of this tool, right? The purpose is to show you how simple it is to use a tool, no code, right? Simply drag and drop to build a simple AI solution. Now, let's look at the second video where we try to connect up and do a bit more data workflow, right? Darren, please.
Creating a data analysis workflow in Orange is simple. We start with opening the data in the file widget. Some preloaded data sets are available, so let's select Iris and explore it. Let's check out the data in a data table. I will select the data table widget and connect the file widget to it. Here we have 150 iris flowers from the famous fishes dataset. Flowers are described by 4 features: the length and width of sepals and the length and width of petals. Each flower is labeled with one of the 3 classes, a species of iris: Iris setosa, Iris versicolor, and Iris virginica. Now let's visualize the data. I'll connect Distributions widget to the File widget. In this way, the File widget sends any data it loads to the Distributions widget. In Distributions, we can walk through all the features in the data. Petal length and petal width seem to nicely separate different species of iris. We can additionally inspect the data in the scatter plot. The plot that we see is a bit messy. Iris versicolor in red and virginica in green are not well separated. I wonder if there's any pair of features that would nicely separate the three classes. I can click Rank Projections to score all feature pairs. A higher score indicates a better separation of different species of iris. The best scored scatter plot, with petal length and petal width, really nicely separates data instances of different class. But there's some overlap of iris versicolor and iris virginica. I'll select data instances in the overlapping region. Scatterplot widget automatically sends the data to its output. Now I connect another data table to the scatterplot to inspect selected data instances. No surprises here. They are all either iris versicolor or iris virginica and seem to have similar values for all four features. We can expand the workflow with other widgets or save it for frequent use. But for now, that's it. We've learned that orange widgets communicate with one another and the changes in one widget are immediately propagated through the workflow.
So there you have it, right? From that brief earlier introduction, we now see that it's just connecting the dots between the different widgets, and you create a workflow. You can reuse information, you can extract information, and then you can further analyze it and take it one step further. So if you look at this tool, technically, it's very much user-friendly. What it requires is domain knowledge. In other words, you have to be in the space of the domain expert who wants to build an AI solution. There must be vested interest in you. You must be a stakeholder who's committed and wants to take that knowledge that you have and put it into AI, right? So next, we're going to run the third video. And this is a slightly more complex one. It's going to take about 4.5 minutes to 5 minutes for this third video, where the instructor actually explains a lot more about how Orange can support and build your needs. Darren, please.
Data can come in all shapes and sizes. It can be a simple spreadsheet or a complex text, audio, video, or even an image. Today I will show you how Orange transforms images into numbers and in this way enables machine learning. First, we will have to install Image Analytics add-on. Go to Options, Add-ons, and install Image Analytics. Restart Orange for the add-on to appear. Now let's start with an example. I have collected 19 images of domestic animals and placed them all in the same folder. I can load them in Orange with Import Images. Open the widget and select the folder. Now connect Image Viewer to import images. Looks like we have all the animals here. Import Images actually constructs and outputs a data table. But how does this data table look like? Let's check this in a data table widget. All I have is a bunch of meta information. Image name, image file path, size of the file, image width and height in pixels. Nothing that would help me with machine learning. We need image descriptors, that is, numbers which describe the content of these images. We will transform raw images into their vector representation using a deep neural network, which was trained on millions of real-life images. Retrieved vectors are also called image embeddings. We embed our images into a multidimensional feature space. Connect Import Images to Image Embeddings. The widget sends images to the server and computes embeddings remotely. Let's see what we got back. Now, we don't only have meta information, but also 2048 additional features to profile the images. Great! With embeddings, we can compare the images and compute their similarity. Let us pass the data to distances and select cosine distance, as it usually works best for images. Then we can pass the distance matrix to hierarchical clustering and observe the dendrogram. Seems like embeddings indeed make sense. All the chickens are grouped together, and all the cows too. I can even check each cluster in an image viewer. Simply wonderful. But I know what you're going to say. You think I'm trying to trick you, that I intentionally selected similar photos so they would get clustered together. Let's double check our procedure with the most famous cow in Europe, the Milka cow. This image is quite different from the others. It is a frontal photograph with digitally enhanced colors. I have retrieved the image from the internet and added it to my domestic animals folder. If I press reload in import images, the new image gets loaded and the whole workflow is instantly updated. Let us again open hierarchical clustering and image viewer. Seems like Milka is correctly clustered with its kind. Today we've learned how to work with images in Orange, profile them using deep model embeddings, and perform clustering. In the next video, we will go a step further. We will be building predictive models for image classification.
There you go. Slightly more complex, but I guess as a power user, you will understand what it's talking about, right? And clearly, each of the learning components are short, right? Like I explained to you, 2 minutes to 5 minutes, right? Not too long, and it shares and teaches you how you can use the application, the tool, in the different respective way, right? It's not very complex. If each of us have been able to play with macros in the spreadsheet, I'm pretty sure, right, with some experience with this tool, with some usage of the tool, you will soon very much be able to build your own AI workflow, right? All the talk around trying to do image analytics and to be able to do the classification of this data can be done in a couple of strokes, and very quickly, instantaneously. You find that the instructor was trying to load in a new picture and it gets captured very quickly. It also allows a human to adjust and edit the information, to update the rules so that it can be captured appropriately. So do explore this tool. So there you have it, everyone. We have now seen Orange as a platform. This is an open source, available at no fees, that you can download onto your machine and spend some time looking at it. So what does all that mean, right? Enabling AI in the moment of need. Okay, so if you need AI, I don't need a AI specialist. I don't need a machine learning engineer, especially when it is specific to a particular need that you want to do analysis on, right? Just like the bike rental example I gave earlier, I don't need a 9-month project to produce that analytics. It's a source code that's no more than 10 lines, right? I'd like to quote Dr. Lee Kai-Fu, right? I guess we all know who that is, right? And he said that AI is going to change the world more than anything in the history of mankind. That's a very powerful message. And he supplemented the statement by saying it is more than electricity. So we know what and how electricity has affected our lives, affected our livelihood. If AI can do more, right? Imagine what our world will be like in the next 10 years, 20 years. Imagine if now we can build a community of power users of AI who is proficient with tools like Orange. If you already have a 3-month certificate on AI, in a particular domain space, I believe we can create a lot of amazing and powerful, impactful, insightful AI applications that can be applied. So some observations, right? We all know AI is very promising, right? And clearly there are pockets of success in narrow AI, but we also know that it will impact every walk of our life. And what I'm trying to put across in this presentation, in this workshop, is AI is not meant for the experts alone, right? AI can be enabled in the moment of need. And if you are a domain expert, if you are not familiar with AI technology and all the science within the technology, there are simpler ways for you to build AI in a moment of need. What I believe personally that AI will not make the human worker obsolete, not at least for a long time to come. The chart by OECD suggests at least 20 years. I think it's going to be further than that. So I firmly believe that AI probably will not replace men in their jobs or their roles, not even for my grandchildren's generation. But I'm very confident that AI will continue to play a very important role to support and augment our capability and potential. I see AI becoming a standard in all businesses, right? There's no specific industry that will not use AI, right? I believe AI will be used in most industry and not just the world of technology. And it is crucial that we know, we understand, and is able to adopt responsible technology. Hence, it's very important to know that today you may be AI unaware, but you can move to AI aware and eventually into the AI ready space, right? And build AI solutions for your need, right? We need to build the next generation of AI innovators and not laggers, right? And by the meaning of next generation, I don't mean the young generation. It means that each of us, PMETs, working professionals, domain experts, industry, knowledge players, can play a part to innovate good AI solutions. And with the converging power of the various technology, the real value will come when we put intelligent man and machine together in a collaborative mode as co-workers to deliver what we need to do in a much more effective way. Maybe I will just add on by saying that there are probably 4 pillars of AI use cases that we need to look at, right? One is around purely improving operational efficiency and being able to do something better. 2 is around strengthening relationship with customers and personalizing our relationship with them, right? And third is in the area of anticipating and managing risk. The fourth is really has got to do with the creation of new products. So if we were to sit back and say, well, where do I start? Here are 4 suggestions to consider. Let's not jump directly into the 4th area of applying AI, right, to create new products. We're probably not there yet if you are currently in a state of unaware of AI. Start with improving operational efficiency. And as you develop competency in understanding AI and the use of AI in developing AI solutions, you can then move into strengthening relationship where you involve a bit more technology around AI, and then to a space where you can do a lot more analytics and managing of new risks and be able to deter risky situations, finally into the ability to create new products. Right? So start at a point where you are best at, with your most competent space before moving into other spaces. Important message, enable AI in the moment of need. I'm going to kind of close off with this particular message, right? To look at the fact that, right, there is going to be a level of urgency among CEOs to think about how they can transform their business. Because otherwise, right, somebody else is going to put it out of business. And in fact, COVID-19 has stepped in and said that if the current business leaders are too comfortable where they are, while the business runs, they're playing golf in the field and wondering what to do next, right? Their business has been transformed by COVID-19, right? And it is important that with technology, you can get back into the play and lead the business and move into the new playing ground. So there you have it, everyone. We have now covered the 4 areas that I wanted to talk to you about, right? Enabling AI in the moment of need. We explored artificial intelligence. We thought through, we covered what AI is about, clarified the space of AI and what potentially AI is, particularly why we think AI is harder than what we think. I discussed the concept of moment of need in relation to training and learning and apply across to AI, because I feel that we are making this big expectation of what AI can be, when in truth, it can be as small as possible for you to meet the needs. We then talk about democratization of AI, right? By democratizing AI, what does it translate into? What are the responsibilities? What are the considerations and implications that organizations must take into account, particularly on the ethics and security side? And then we talk about AI as a service, no code, shorter time to develop, lesser investment. What do we need to do? I share with you 2 platforms, right? They don't have to be used exclusively. They can be used in combination. It might not be a bad idea to consider actually jumping into the CEAI program, get coached around building a narrow space solution, right? And then downloading Orange and using as a possible learning platform for you to start to build that into your environment. You could probably create a lot of applications of AI to improve your efficiency and to build strong relationship with your customers, right? If you want to start to think about AI, creating a new product, you probably need to look at a more higher end tool, and you probably need a team of experts, a team of talents, AI talents to support you. But to enable AI in the moment of needs, for efficiency improvements and for the ability to build greater relationships with your employees and customers, right? Some of the tools that I've suggested here will be sufficient. So you there have it. Thank you very much, everyone. We've come to the end of this workshop. I'm leaving you my contact email just in case you need to get in touch with me. I'm also suggesting you visit our website, AIBotics.tech, if you need further information. Right.